My boyfriend was broke, but I stuck by him anyway. In the 2 years we were together, my boyfriend was broke, or at least that is what he made me believe, and I stuck by him anyway. In the 2 years we were together, the only gift he ever gave me was a $2 hair tie. Just a single, cheap scrunchie. But I told myself that gifts were not what mattered, and that love and loyalty were more important than material things. I believed in him. I believed in us. Until one day, everything I thought I knew came crashing down. It was supposed to be a normal night. I was working my second job as a waitress at a high-end bar, the kind of place where the drinks cost more than my monthly grocery bill. I was tired, my feet aching, and my thoughts drifting to Joao. He had told me he would be working late again. It was nothing new. He always worked late, or so he claimed. I tried not to let it bother me. After all, we were a team, and I understood his struggles. At least, I thought I did. That night, as I carried a tray of drinks toward one of the VIP rooms, I froze. Through the frosted glass, I could see a group of people laughing and clinking champagne glasses. And there he was, Joao, my Joao. But he looked nothing like the man I thought I knew. He was wearing a perfectly tailored suit, his hair slicked back, exuding an aura of wealth and confidence that was completely unfamiliar to me. His arm was draped around a stunning woman, the kind of influencer whose face you see on billboards and luxury brand campaigns. She was laughing, dangling a car key in her perfectly manicured fingers. "Thank you so much, Joao," she cooed, her voice like honey. "I do not know how I will ever repay you." The room erupted in cheers. Someone shouted, "Marry him!" Another yelled, "Kiss! Kiss!" And then they did, right there in front of everyone. My heart shattered. It felt like a punch to the gut, a bolt of lightning striking me where I stood. My grip on the tray faltered, but somehow I managed to hand it off to a coworker before stumbling into the bathroom. Inside, I bit down on my hand to stifle my sobs. The memories of our 2 years together flooded my mind. The countless nights we spent in our tiny, damp apartment. The sacrifices I made, working extra shifts to cover the rent, utilities, and groceries because he said his paycheck went to support his family. He had painted such a tragic picture, a dead mother, a father recovering from a stroke, and younger siblings who depended on him. He would always look at me with those soulful eyes and ask, "Babe, do you think I am a loser for being broke? You will stay with me, right? You will not leave?" And I always reassured him. I told him it was okay, that we would work hard and things would get better. I believed him when he promised me a future, a big house, a diamond ring, and a life where I would never have to work again. I wiped my tears, left the bar, and told the manager I was sick. At home, I cried myself to sleep. The image of Joao and that woman seared into my brain. When Joao finally came home, it was past midnight. He crawled into bed and wrapped his arms around me, his voice soft. "Sorry, babe, the boss made us work late." I could smell the faint trace of perfume on him, a scent that did not belong to me. My nails dug into my palms, but I forced myself to stay calm. "Are you mad I am late?" he asked, kissing my cheek. "No," I whispered, "just not feeling well." I could not confront him. Not yet. I needed answers first. The next day, I went to work with puffy eyes and a heavy heart. Joao texted me, "Babe, why did you not call in sick?" I stared at his message, my vision blurring with tears. My mind replayed the scene from the VIP room. The influencer, the car key, the kiss, it all felt like a cruel joke. That night, I returned to the bar and waited. Sure enough, Joao showed up, ordering champagne worth thousands of dollars, laughing with his new crowd like he was the king of the world. Hidden behind my uniform, heavy makeup, and dim lighting, Joao did not recognize me. I overheard their conversation. "Joao is the heir to the Carvalho Corporation," someone said. "Worth billions. Can you believe it?" My blood ran cold. No dead mother, no sick father, no struggling siblings, just lies. Then someone asked, "Are you still with that broke girl, Mariana?" Joao laughed, his tone dripping with contempt. "That cheap, tacky girl? She is not even fit to be my maid. I am just playing with her. She is so clueless. I mentioned a Patek Philippe watch once, and now she is saving up to buy me one." The room erupted in laughter. My heart shattered into a million pieces. I looked at my hands, rough and calloused from years of hard work, and then at the influencer, her skin flawless, her clothes designer. We were worlds apart. When Joao finally spotted me, he did not even flinch. He sneered, dismissing me like I was nothing. I stumbled out of the bar, tears streaming down my face. Everything I had sacrificed for him, every dream, every ounce of love, meant nothing to him. That night, as Joao tried to kiss me goodbye with his fake promises and empty apologies, I made a decision. I would not be his fool any longer. He thought he could control me, but he was wrong. I was done being his pawn. I stared him down and said the words I had been too afraid to say before. We are over! She eats ramen every day, wears cheap clothes, and gets excited over a $2 scrunchie. Joao sneered as he said it, his voice dripping with mockery, like he was recounting some pathetic joke at my expense. She's like a dirty, used rag, he added cruelly, his lips curling into a smirk. Good for wiping your shoes. The influencer sitting beside him giggled, her perfectly manicured nails tapping rhythmically on the edge of her champagne flute. Do not insult yourself, Joao, by even comparing yourself to that kind of trash. She leaned closer, her diamond earrings catching the light, her voice sweet yet sharp enough to cut through my heart. Joao's smirk widened as he stroked her hand, as if the cruelty he was doling out was some kind of sick performance. Of course, darling, he purred. She's not even fit to lick your boots. The room erupted in laughter, a cacophony of mockery and derision. Joao laughed too, his eyes glinting with contempt. It was like the man I had spent 2 years loving, sacrificing for, had been replaced by a stranger, an unrecognizable monster in a tailored suit. My chest tightened, and for a moment I could not breathe. My hands trembled so violently that I had to clutch my tray just to stay steady. A dirty, used rag. The words echoed in my mind, louder with each repetition. I glanced down at the scrunchie on my wrist, the one he had given me on my birthday. I bit my lip, trying to stifle the wave of humiliation washing over me. I had pretended to love that scrunchie, worn it proudly like it was the most precious gift in the world because I did not want to hurt his pride. What girl would not want a real gift from her boyfriend? But he had turned my sincerity, my gratitude, into a joke. Lost in thought, I stumbled, my foot landing on the influencer's pointed stilettos. She recoiled, gasping as if I had struck her. You clumsy idiot, she hissed, her voice cutting through the laughter. Her hand lashed out, a sharp slap across my cheek. Watch where you are going, she snapped. Tears pricked my eyes as I stammered an apology, bowing my head. But she was not done. She jabbed a perfectly polished nail against my forehead. Get on your knees and apologize! The men surrounding her jeered, their voices overlapping in a drunken chorus of, How dare you disrespect our queen! Kneel! I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat threatening to choke me as I whispered, I am sorry. My voice was barely audible, trembling with the effort to hold back the tears. Joao glanced at me, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw recognition in his eyes. But if he recognized me, he did not care. Enough, Vittoria, he said lazily, waving her off like I was some pesky fly. Do not waste your time on a waitress. It is beneath you. He did not even look at me as he said it, but the disgust in his tone crushed me all the same. I stumbled to my feet, my vision blurry with tears, and ran out of the room. The cold night air hit me like a slap, and I finally let the tears fall, sobbing uncontrollably in the alley behind the bar. All his love, his promises, they were lies. I thought back to the night we met. I had been leaving work late, exhausted and unaware of the danger lurking in the shadows. Some men had tried to drag me into an alley, their intentions clear and horrifying. Joao had appeared like a hero from some fairy tale, fighting them off despite the bruises and cuts he endured. His injuries had warmed my heart. As an orphan who had never known protection, Joao felt like salvation. Grateful, I had taken him to dinner. He confessed his feelings and we started dating. For 2 years, I believed in him. I woke up early to cook for him, nursed him through fevers, and worked extra hours to pay for everything he could not afford. I thought we were building a future together, but all the while, he had been laughing at me, using me. I stumbled home in a daze. When I opened the door, there he was, lounging on the couch in the faded t-shirt I had bought him. Babe, he said, standing up with a grin. My coworkers took me out for barbecue. I brought some home for you. He pointed to a takeout box and a 6-pack of beer like he was offering me gold. The boss gave us this. Can you believe it? He looked so thrilled, like a child showing off a new toy. I stared at him, the memory of him ordering $1,000 champagne flashing in my mind. My hands clenched into fists at my sides. When I did not respond, he walked over and tried to hug me. Babe, what is wrong? He asked, his voice full of concern. It was almost enough to break me, but then I remembered the influencer's laughter, the way he had dismissed me like garbage. My stomach churned and I doubled over, dry heaving. Joao knelt beside me, his hand on my back. Babe, are you sick? Let us go to the hospital, he said, his voice dripping with worry. It felt like a cruel joke. I shoved the takeout and beer into the trash. He scrambled to retrieve them.
What are you doing? This was expensive.
I closed my eyes, inhaling deeply to steady myself. Can you buy me this? I asked, pulling up a $25 bottle of toner on my phone, the same toner I had been eyeing for months but could never justify buying. Joao glanced at the price and slapped his forehead. I am sorry, babe, he said, his voice oozing with regret. I am so useless. I cannot even buy you what you want. His words were so sincere, so remorseful, that I might have believed him if I had not seen the truth with my own eyes. A $25 bottle of toner was too expensive, but a Ferrari was nothing. I laughed bitterly, tears streaming down my face. He thought I was crying because he could not afford the toner. Do not be sad, babe, he said, his voice soft. I will save up, okay? When I make more money, I will buy you anything you want, even if it costs $100.
His words made me sick. My hands shook as I pushed him away. We are breaking up, I said, my voice cold and final.
Panic flashed across his face. Babe, do not be mad. I will save up next month, I promise. Joao Carvalho, I interrupted, my voice trembling with rage. I am just a dirty, used rag, right? Why bother lying anymore? For the first time, he was silent. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. He knew he was cornered, and I had finally seen his true face. You have until tomorrow morning to leave, I said firmly. And do not think for a second that I will let you manipulate me again. From now on, I am taking care of myself. Joao tried to speak, but I did not let him. I opened the door and pointed outside. Get out, now. He hesitated, his eyes pleading, but I did not waver. When he finally stepped out, I shut the door in his face. That night, I opened a bottle of wine I had been saving for a special occasion. Ending that toxic relationship felt like reason enough to celebrate. For the first time in 2 years, I felt free. His tender words only brought back the sting of every insult he had thrown at me, every ounce of disdain in his voice when he looked at me like I was trash. It replayed in my mind on an endless loop, the way he sat there, calm and smug, while the influencer demanded that I kneel like a servant. In that moment, it became clear. He was not just a liar. He was a monster. I shoved him away, my eyes blazing with anger and disgust. We are breaking up, I said, each word like a nail sealing the coffin of our relationship. His face changed instantly. Panic flooded his expression as he held up his hands, his voice pleading, Do not be mad. I will save up next month, okay, babes? I could not believe he had the audacity to act like this was salvageable. Like I had not just seen his real face, the one he had carefully hidden from me for 2 years. I wiped my tears with trembling hands, my throat raw from crying. Joao Carvalho, I said, my voice low but steady. I am just a dirty, used rag to you, right? So why bother lying anymore? I expected him to deny it. That was the kind of man he was, a chronic liar who would twist reality to suit his needs. But to my surprise, he said nothing, not a word. He just stood there, his eyes wide and his mouth slightly open like the words had frozen on his tongue. That was when I realized he knew he was cornered. There was no way out this time. I laughed, but it was not the kind of laugh you would hear from someone happy or amused. It was bitter, sharp, filled with all the pain and humiliation I had endured. You are not even going to try to explain? I asked, my voice trembling, not with sadness, but with rage. You are not even going to pretend that this is all some big misunderstanding? That you love me and everything I heard was just one big mistake? He took a step back, his hands raised defensively. Babe, it is not what it looks like. It is not what it looks like? I cut him off, my voice rising with every word. I saw it with my own eyes, Joao. I heard you say I am a dirty, used rag. I heard you laugh at me, at everything I sacrificed for you, and now you have the audacity to stand there and act like you can fix this with another lie? He tried to step closer, but I raised my hand, stopping him cold. Not another step, I snapped. I want you out of my house, now. Babe, please, he begged, his voice cracking as desperation crept in. I can explain. I was drunk. I did not know what I was saying. I crossed my arms, glaring at him. Oh, of course you were drunk, I mocked. Because being drunk is the perfect excuse for humiliating the person you supposedly love, right? It is not just what you said, Joao. It is the way you said it, the way you looked at me. Like I was nothing, less than nothing. He dropped to his knees, grabbing my hands in a pathetic display of remorse. Please, babe. I made a mistake. I was an idiot, but I love you. I have always loved you. I yanked my hands away, glaring at him with all the anger I could muster. Always loved me? I spat the words like venom. Is that why you gave a Ferrari to that influencer? Why you lied about your family, your life, everything? You manipulated me, Joao. You made me feel sorry for you, made me sacrifice everything while you lived a double life as some spoiled billionaire? You think that is love? He fell back onto the floor, staring up at me. But what I saw in his eyes was not regret. It was arrogance. That same smug certainty that he could somehow still control me. You are not going anywhere, he said, his voice suddenly cold, devoid of the pleading tone from before. This house, everything you have, it is mine, because without me, you are nothing. I laughed again, harder this time. Nothing without you? I repeated, shaking my head. Joao, have you forgotten who paid the rent for 2 years? Who worked 2 jobs to keep this house running while you sat around spending money on other women? I am the only reason you had a roof over your head while you pretended to be broke. He opened his mouth to argue, but I did not let him. You know what is funny? I continued, my voice sharp as a blade. While you were laughing at me with your friends, I was here thinking about how I could save more to help you. I gave up basic necessities to make sure you had everything. And you know what I just realized? I am not the dirty used rag, Joao. You are. The words hit him like a slap. For the first time, he was silent. Completely silent. And in that silence, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Fear. He finally understood that I was done. You have until tomorrow morning to leave, I said firmly. And do not think for a second that I am going to let you manipulate me again. Because from now on, I am taking care of myself. I am living my life without carrying the weight of your pathetic existence.
He tried to speak, but I was done listening. I opened the door, pointing outside. Get out, now!
He hesitated, standing there like he was waiting for me to change my mind. But I just stared back at him, unflinching. Finally, he grabbed his things and walked out the door. I closed it behind him and let out a breath I had been holding for what felt like years. For the first time in 2 years, I felt something I thought I had forgotten. Peace. He grabbed his things and lingered by the door, hesitating like he was waiting for me to change my mind. His eyes searched mine, pleading, but I had nothing left to give. I kept my face blank, my hands gripping the door frame like it was the only thing holding me up. I did not flinch. I simply closed the door in his face and turned the lock. The silence in the apartment felt louder than any argument we had ever had. I looked around at the tiny space that had been our home for 2 years. The sagging couch, the chipped table I had picked up secondhand, the faded curtains that never quite blocked out the light. Everything screamed of sacrifice, of effort, of me trying to make something work that was destined to fall apart. That night, I sat on that same couch with a bottle of wine I had been saving for a special occasion. Turns out, ending a toxic relationship felt pretty special. I poured myself a glass, took a sip, and let the numbness settle. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was alone. Truly alone. No lies, no manipulations, no false promises. Just me. And in that stillness, I found something unexpected. Peace. Looking back, I realized how blind I had been. I ignored the red flags because I wanted so badly to believe in him. I wanted to believe that he was the hardworking, kind-hearted man he pretended to be. But all I had been to him was a tool, a convenient placeholder in his life. Never again, I told myself. Never again would I let anyone treat me like that. Because in the end, I knew I deserved so much more than he could ever offer. The next few days were hard. The silence of the apartment was deafening, the space empty without his presence. But there was a small part of me that relished the emptiness. I told myself I would leave it all behind. His lies, his humiliations, the years I had wasted on him. I tried to focus on moving forward, but as the days passed, something gnawed at me. A sense of injustice, of anger, of betrayal. He had used me, manipulated me, and discarded me like trash, all while continuing his luxurious life without facing a single consequence. One sleepless night, I picked up my phone and opened an anonymous forum. My fingers hesitated over the keyboard, but then I started typing. I poured everything out. The lies he told me, how I had supported him for 2 years, how I found out the truth at the bar where he flaunted his wealth and humiliated me in front of his friends. I did not name him or give specific details, but I laid the story bare, every word feeling like a weight lifted off my chest. I did not expect anything from it. I just needed to vent. By the next morning, my post had gone viral. Thousands of people had read it, commented on it, shared it. The responses ranged from outrage to sympathy, with many calling out the behavior of people like him. Some particularly curious users started piecing together the clues, and it did not take long for his identity to be uncovered. Soon, Joao's name was all over social media tied to the story I had written. People began sharing details about him. Photos of lavish parties, extravagant trips, expensive gifts for other women. Comments flooded social media calling him a liar, a manipulator, an exploiter. The influencer he had been dating was not spared either. She became a target of the internet's wrath, her image dragged through the mud. It was chaos, and for once, it was not mine to deal with. Then, I received a message from a lawyer. He told me that based on my story, I had grounds to sue Joao. He explained that living together for 2 years could qualify as a common law relationship in many jurisdictions. Considering Joao had hidden his financial status while I supported him, I could claim half of the assets he had acquired during that time. At first, I was stunned. The thought of going to court against someone as wealthy and powerful as Joao terrified me. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I deserved justice. I had sacrificed so much for him, and he had taken everything without a second thought. The lawyer assured me that we had a solid case. With my post going viral, there was no shortage of witnesses willing to testify. No shortage of evidence like rent receipts and messages where he made promises he never intended to keep. After much deliberation, I decided to move forward with the lawsuit. The months that followed were exhausting. Joao did everything he could to intimidate me. His lawyer sent threatening letters accusing me of defamation and demanding I drop the case. But with my lawyer's guidance and the overwhelming support of strangers online, I stood my ground. During the hearings, Joao's lies unraveled. The evidence was damning. I paid the rent, the bills, while he spent his money on parties and gifts for his influencer girlfriends. The judge ruled in my favor, recognizing our common law relationship and awarding me half of the assets he had acquired during our time together. It was not his entire fortune, but it was enough to change my life. Joao was furious, but there was nothing he could do. His reputation was in ruins. His family's company distanced themselves from him to protect their image, and the influencer publicly dumped him, declaring she wanted nothing to do with a man so toxic. When the dust settled, I felt like I had finally closed a painful chapter of my life. With the money I received, I started investing in myself. I opened a small business, something I had always dreamed of. I began to rebuild, focusing on my own happiness for the first time in years. As for Joao, he faded into obscurity, a cautionary tale of arrogance and deceit. In the end, it was not about the money, it was about justice, about proving to myself and to him that no one has the right to treat another person the way he treated me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free, truly free.